Next, I'd like to call Didi Christie with West Tennessee Legal Services.
Thank you. First, I'd like to say I was not able to get any actual numbers from our budget. I asked for those, and the response I got was, we can't. I mean, the way our funds are divided between different positions, I'm fully funded by 2 federal grants, my position is. I don't know how the other positions are funded, but I did request that information, and you may be able to get it from someone besides me if you email me, and I'll forward your email if you really need it. I'm a domestic violence attorney at West Tennessee Legal Services in Jackson. We provide assistance in 17 counties in West Tennessee, including the 9 we're talking about today. The funding I receive provides for me to provide legal services for domestic violence victims in Lake County, Dyer County, Gibson County, and Crockett County here in Northwest Tennessee. My managing attorney is Jane Jarvis. We have she does domestic violence cases as well in some other counties. We have a paralegal who's devoted to domestic violence cases in our office. She's also bilingual, speaks Spanish. When someone is referred to us, they usually come from RAP or law enforcement. Sometimes we get referrals from court clerks and judges as well. And when we get that referral, we contact them. They go through an intake process to determine whether they're eligible for our services, because some of our cases are income-based. There's an income limit, resource limit, things like that. They're also assessed for food stamp eligibility. If they're not receiving food stamps, they're advised of that, and we assist them in getting those. We also provide them with educational materials regarding domestic violence, contact information for RAP and for Northwest Safeline and for other agencies. We discuss safety planning with them. We talk about what they need to do in their home or at their job to protect themselves from the abuser should he come in or try to hurt her or the children or the pets. Nobody has mentioned pets yet, but they're domestic violence victims as well. That's a big one that abusers like to use, is to threaten to kill the beloved pet. So we're not only protecting women and children, but we're protecting pets as well. We perform a lethality assessment on every domestic violence victim that comes into our office. It's a tool that we use. It's yes and no questions. They're weighted questions. It comes up with a determination, a number that we use to tell them what their risk is of being killed. We use the one developed by Dr. Jacqueline Campbell. I was certified in administering the test when I attended the national conference, the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence conference last year in Denver. And anyone here who wants to become certified in that can go to dangerassessment.org. There is online training. You take a test that costs $25 and you become certified as well in doing that. And I encourage anybody who works directly with victims to do that. We also screen our clients for any other legal needs that they have that could be provided in-house by West Tennessee Legal Services, such as housing issues, Social Security disability, consumer issues, things like that. And many of our domestic clients are also served by legal services by those departments. So that would be another funding source that goes toward domestic violence victims in our office. We provide civil legal assistance on orders of protection cases, divorces, and we accompany our clients in criminal prosecutions of the abusers. We do that to explain the criminal justice procedure, the process to them, because it can be overwhelming and it can be really confusing. And so my Crockett County advocate from RAP is here. We work hand in hand, and we're often in court together with our victims, with our participants that we work in common with. In 2012, we closed 222 domestic or sexual violence cases, 108 of which were Northwest Tennessee cases. In those 108 cases, we provided 1,263 hours of free legal work. In the private sector, and assuming a very conservative fee of $200 per hour, this amounts to a fair market value of $252,600. And this doesn't include the value of any other services they might have received from other departments in our office. In addition, we obtained for those clients approximately $150,000 in monetary benefits consisting of food stamp benefits, child support, alimony, and miscellaneous other judgments through our representation of them. My statistics are going to be a little different from Darrell's because she only counted the sheriff's offices in Northwest Tennessee. I also counted the municipalities in each county. And in 2012, according to the TBI, the Northwest region counties reported a total of 2,604 cases of domestic violence. That includes murder, aggravated assault, simple assault, intimidation, stalking, forcible rape, forcible sodomy, sexual assault with an object, forcible fondling, incest, statutory rape, and kidnapping or abduction. Of those 2,604, we served 108 in a year. That's not very many of those. We can't possibly serve everyone. With more funding, possibly we could get more lawyers and do more good things for these people to help them become self-sufficient, because their recovery has to be sustainable. We don't want to help them and then leave them and they just sort of fall off the cliff. I put copies of my presentation on our vendor table out here, West Tennessee Legal Services. I only have about 25 of them, so if anybody wants one and doesn't get one, you can email me. My email address is didi@wtls.org. I've got the county breakdown as follows. In Benton County, there was a total of 104. Carroll County, 191. Crockett County, 140. Dyer County, 745. Law enforcement's doing a real good job here. Gibson County, and I've got to say something about Gibson County and O'Brien County because of Kenton. Kenton is in both counties, so I just divided their number in half. They had a total of 24, so I put 12 of those in Gibson and 12 in O'Brien. Gibson County had a total of 616. Henry County, a total of 194. Lake County, 54. O'Brien County, 286. Weakley County, a total of 274. 8 of those were from UT Martin. So you can see that it is a problem in every county, and when you consider the populations and the sizes of these counties, you can see that the pattern's not always consistent. I don't know if that's because victims are not reporting, or if law enforcement is not doing what they're supposed to do following the preferred procedure of arrest. But it is a problem. I was kind of surprised to see Sandburg in O'Brien County had 0. Of course, it's a small town, but still. Even the little town of Gibson had 1. And my topic is issues in the legal system. So I want to talk about the legal system and domestic violence victims because it can be a minefield. Law enforcement is the front line, and the way the officers respond to a domestic violence report colors the entire experience for the victim. Officers need to be well trained in determining the primary aggressor and in referral to domestic violence agencies, and to make good documentation of the incident and to take photographs. Because if not all of those things are done, then what goes on from that point forward can be a real mess, especially when you're trying to get this person help and protection, get them some safety and get them some support. A lot of agencies are doing this very well, and I have personal knowledge that some of them still aren't. I'm not gonna name any names, but trust me, some of them are not. And a bad experience with law enforcement discourages a victim from reporting again, and it's often a reason that victims stay. Judges' attitudes. Their attitudes toward victims and toward domestic violence in general, that's very crucial. Judges have been known to say in the presence of victims things like, "This is just a domestic assault," or, "I hate orders of protection, but it's the law, so I gotta do something with this," or, "I don't see a basis, has he or she not hit you?" In assessing the lethality risk of a victim, several other factors besides physical violence indicate a very high risk of danger, such as whether the abuser has a gun, the recent separation of the parties, as Patricia said, unemployment of the abuser, threatening the victim with a weapon, threatening to kill the victim having a child that is not the abuser's child, or forcing or coercing the victim to have sex when he or she doesn't want to. All of these factors may exist in a case. You may have a client that's had all of this, but when the judge says, "Well, did he hit you?" and they say no, the order of protection is often denied, and that victim is placed in greater danger than they were before. That also discourages victims from reporting and from leaving, and can be dangerous. And I often tell my clients before we go into an order of protection hearing, you know, you're probably in a lot of danger, but this particular judge may deny your order of protection. So you need a safety plan. And we talk to the advocates, the DV advocates, and we make a safety plan. And I tell them, you know, look, if you're not safe, you go to shelter. There is shelter. You know, I don't want anybody to lose their life because the judge just asked one question and the answer was no. Also, a mine in the minefield is that a victim of domestic violence may lose custody of their children. I've had this happen. Abusers, as a rule, are controlling, calculating, and manipulative, and very often make wonderful witnesses. Victims often suffer from PTSD and or traumatic brain injury from the abuse, and they often make terrible witnesses. The reports they made to the police when they were under the stress and shock of the assault may not match up with what they say later because of their stress response. Law enforcement officers know this, that when you're under a great deal of stress, odd things happen to you. You get tunnel vision. You see things that weren't there. You don't see things that were there. The same thing is happening to these victims. And, you know, when you get in the court system, well, this is what she said the day that they arrested him, and now she's saying this, and we just don't believe her. She's not credible at all. And victims are often very protective of their children because of what the kids witnessed or what they were subjected to at the hands of the abuser. So they don't let the kids visit. And they're seen by a judge as the unfriendly parent. A lot of you in here know that the father's rights people have really been working the legislature, and the laws are friendly to the fathers. Well, they're friendly to the mothers as well, that, you know, if these fathers' rights groups had their way, all kids would live half the time with mother and half the time with father. And so they've got in the law this provision that a factor to consider in awarding custody is whether or not that parent is friendly to the other parent and willing to promote a relationship. Well, these victims, these kids have been abused. They've seen their mother be abused. The kids a lot of times don't want to see the father. So, you know, they go to court on a custody case and they lose custody to the abuser with limited visitation to the victim, and they're assessed child support because they were a protective parent. In an ideal world, everybody who comes in contact with a victim would know these things, be trained in the dynamics of domestic and sexual violence, and frame their decisions based on that knowledge, but not everybody has that. And it's my experience that a lot of the ones who need it the most are the least likely to seek that training. Fortunately, there are a lot of great law enforcement officers and great judges in Northwest Tennessee who get it, who understand, who are protective, and do a good job ensuring the safety of the families, and as well as the financial support of the families. So when we go in on an order of protection, we're not just asking for him to stay away. We're asking for him to move out of the house, let her have the house, pay child support, pay some spousal support, pay certain bills, things like that. And a good judge will give us those things. Collaboration is very important. That's already been talked about, but we need to get out of our silos, you know. We need to talk to each other and figure out what each of us needs to do to make sure that, as Judge Snyder said, this chain doesn't get broken and these people don't get further victimized by the system.
Thank you. Thank you, Dee. You brought out some things that many people know, but not everyone will say, and we appreciate that.